What's up, guys? It's Pandemic Day number 3475. I'm down here in the vaults. I can't go up to the surface. Can't get sick. Okay, but seriously, I am here with a new video for you guys. A new record. Actually, if you're wondering, I actually have a brand new excuse for why I'm slowing down a little bit my videos. I've actually joined, my friends and I have created a little old school Dungeons and Dragons group. Like actual, not a video game based on Dungeons and Dragons, but the real thing. So as much of a nerd as you may have imagined I was before, I'm now the pure ultra nerd playing Dungeons and Dragons. But not today, because I'm here to talk to you about a new record that is absolutely perfect for this whole quarantine lockdown nightmare scenario. This is Buck 65's Laundromat Boogie on Black Buffalo Records. And when I say new record, I mean new record. It's not really a new album. It was originally recorded and released digitally in 2014 to coincide with Never Love, the album right there behind me. His last album on Warner Brothers Records, and basically his last album period, at least to this date. We're going to get into that. And it was meant to be sort of like a fun, playful alternative. Never Love is sort of known as his divorce album, the album he made after his divorce, which gets kind of dark and talks about, broken relationships, things like that. And so it's sort of a light, playful album that came out at the same time. Again, it's just sort of like, Never Love's big thing and major label, came out on CD and cassette and vinyl, and there's music videos and everything. And this was just like a little NBC project he put out at the same time as sort of a lighthearted complement to that. But now, in 2020, which is why I say new record, it's been pressed on vinyl on a label called Black Buffalo Records, which I believe is owned and run by Joe Run Bombay, or at least he's heavily associated with it, because he's actually the producer of Laundromat Boogie. It's actually crazy how this album was marketed. I got it right here on my phone. I'm going to read it to you because I've never heard of one album throwing another album so far under the bus in the promotion and marketing. I mean, maybe if one MC was like dissing another MC, or dissing his old group or something, like Ice Cube talking about NWA, but not two albums by the same guy. So I'm just going to read this for you because it's pretty crazy. Originally released in the fall of 2014 as a lighter alternative, blah, 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 we know that. Never Love album on Warner Brothers, which was released on the same day. Laundromat Boogie became the critically acclaimed... Oh, the grammar's kind of... I'll fix it for them. Laundromat Boogie became critically acclaimed as a preferred choice between the two releases among die-hard Buck 65 fans. So they're really saying that one was the junky one, and this is the real one. Which is unfair because, certainly... It's true, diehard Buck 65 fans, critics, and even myself have had some criticisms of Never Love, but it's still a pretty strong album. And I'm not necessarily sure that this really blows that out of the water. Probably the main fault, I think lyrically, Never Love is really strong. His delivery, his vocals are great. Most of the production, even though it's not by Buck 65 himself and by basically virtual sort of unknowns, I think they're like Swedish guys or something, is really strong. So it's a pretty solid album. I think the main criticism is that practically every single song has a different girl singing like a chorus, singing extra verses and stuff like that. And, nothing like, oh my God, they let a girl on the album. But there's so many on the album, like basically every single song, that Buck 65 starts to sound like a guest on his own album. Think of like King T's album for Aftermath, which, sort of eventually kind of got released, or like Kool G Rap's last album, where like every song is so packed with guests, you're like, well, I'm here to hear Kool G Rap, I'm here to hear King T, I'm here to hear Buck 65, and he's sidelined practically on his whole album just because he's got all these different people singing on it. Plus, like, one song has a girl singing in French, which, the language barrier just blocks you as an English listener. And, he does one of his typical list songs, which he does in almost every album, including Laundromat Boogie, by the way. So it's on there, too. So you can't really hold that as above Laundromat Boogie. And his last song is this kind of self-indulgent sing-songy kind of thing at the end. But, considering it's tucked away at the album, I don't really hold that against it either. I sort of think of like Craig G's last album. He does kind of that jokey blues song, or when they have just long shout outs at the end. As an album, really, it's a pretty solid, good album. And I go back and listen to this day. I guess one other knock it tends to get is the single, Super Pretty Naughty, which is like this kind of strange out there pop song. You're like, is this a parody? Because he's sort of sarcastic. And I think the mistake was just release it as a single and to release it before the album. Because within the context of the album, he's kind of going through his divorce. He's got this sort of semi-sardonic, take on pop music, but, trying to be upbeat in maybe sort of a forced way makes perfect sense. But when you just saw this video and heard the single, you're really like, is this a parody or not? He seems sincere, but at the same time, clearly the lyrics are not. And, it threw people off. So I think I can understand, because it's catchy, why Warner Brothers wanted it to be the single and push it that way. But that was, I think, a mistake. But otherwise, Never Love is a pretty solid album. And while the production by Joran Bombay does win this album to that album, this album, Laundromat Boogie, let's talk about it, is literally what the title suggests. It is a complete album. Every single song is about doing laundry. As absurd as that sounds, that's what this is. And basically what that means is it's primarily frivolous. You know, like, it's very lighthearted, songs about nothing. You know, all the songs, Spin Cycle, Clean Clothes, Dirty Books, Soap and Water. Like, that's what this album is. Whereas Never Love is about, you know, has a real emotional undercurrent to it that this lacks. So is this, you know, actually the critically superior, much better album? I wouldn't go that far, but it's certainly a strong, interesting alternative, and it's a lot of fun. And again, it really kind of suits our time. Because frivolous definitely has its place in hip-hop. Fun, not necessarily saying anything, freestyle rhymes are, you know, a core tenet of hip-hop going all the way back to the early days. You know, sometimes people use it as an easy way to knock another record they don't like. You know, you can say, like, oh, Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby is about nothing. It's just freestyle nonsense. You know, you should listen to Public Enemy and X-Clan. And certainly, you know, like, records like Raise the Flag and Public Enemy classics are superior to anything Vanilla Ice ever did. But at the same time, like, you know, you listen to songs like Dwick, right? That's about nothing. Lemonade was a popular drink, and it still is. I get more stunts than Bruce Willis. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Guru, everybody, real hip-hop artists do it too. It's just sometimes fun to flex and, you know, do skills and wordplay. That's a big component of hip-hop. So I think that's fine. Like, not every song has to be deep or powerful, have a political message or whatever. But at the same time, when you do have a successful message, which is one thing you can say for Never Love, maybe not message, but, you know, when you're saying something, you know, emotive and sort of deep and, you know, meaningful, that's the strength Never Love has that Laundromat Boogie does not have. And we're all stuck at home. We can't go out. Doing laundry is actually a big percentage of how we're spending our time, right? So having an album dedicated to that is pretty appropriate. And, you know, hey, it is fun and all. It's upbeat. There's a lot of kind of like old school samples and stuff. There's a lot of cuts on this album. Joe Run's doing it, and he's constantly cutting up stuff like Roxanne Shante, you know, So Fresh, or Joski Love, Pee Wee's Dance, stuff like that on the hooks and breaks. And honestly, a lot of these ideas, you know, like a song called Million Little Pieces. Obviously, you think of maybe the infamous memoir from Oprah and all that kind of stuff. But no, Oprah's book club. I mean, she didn't write the memoir. It's just about, you know, what happens if you got a piece of paper in your pocket when you do the laundry. Oh, it gets destroyed. Like, it's all silly kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tempting to rock. Just a reminder to empty your pockets. 20 o'clock before you do loads. Take care of your shit before it explodes, or it's exposed to water and heat. Especially when a girl offers to meet. You wander the streets with nowhere to go. Nothing to do, feeling lower than low. Slower the flow, disgusted and destroyed. Covered in dirt like Dustin Pedroia. Trust and enjoy, remember her fondly. Empty your pockets before you do laundry.
There's a song called Soap and Water, which is actually a play on Stetsasonics' Pen and Paper. Remember that song from Info Gear? They use the exact same instrumental all the way through. Fortunately, it's a terrific instrumental, so it's always good to hear it again. Actually, that kind of threw me off at first, because whenever I hear that bass line, that boom, 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 like, the first thing I think of immediately is, like, Just Dice and BDP, who use that to classic ends. So it took me a minute to kind of place it, like, oh no, he's using it to refer to the Stetsasonic song that also used that sample. But when you actually compare the two songs, it's completely on it. Not only is it like the same instrumental, but he's really, you know, if you remember that song Pen and Paper, Daddy-O and all the guys are kind of using this really specific kind of styling, you know. First there was the pen, and pen came views, then people saw the views, and then came pen news, and, like, you know, I can't do it, I don't have it memorized. But that, so Buck 65 is literally doing that wordplay and that style and that rhetoric, but flipping it, so instead of talking about a pen and paper, he's talking about soap and water.
Washer and dryer I always use to bring people to the laundromat in ones and twos to clean everything they wear except for their shoes. Clothes from the washer is called clean clothes. Clothes from the dryer is called dry clothes. First was the wash, then came the dry. Folks wash the clothes so they can look fly. The water is the blood of the washing machine. The soap is the gene that makes the clothes clean. Together as a unit of water and soap. Dirty clothes, nope, now I look dope.
So fresh is exactly what you think it is, sort of making a play on fresh as in fresh 3MCs and the way hip-hop uses fresh, but literally just talking about how fresh you feel when you've got clean laundry. And So Dirty is a song where it's just sort of like a fun narrative or series of narratives about how he got dirty and thus needs to clean his clothes. It's all silly laundromat stuff.
Hey, yo. I should have known better. Lovers get hurt. Down on my knees and I'm covered in dirt. She hovered and flirted, floated in time. Suspended animation and I'm coated in grime. I don't know why, but I tackled a cactus. I baffled an actress when we crackled a mattress. I tried to eat bonbons with a cheerleader's pom-poms. Got stranded on Hoth and had to sleep in a tauntaun. Got in a fight that ended in a bloody struggle. On my way home I fell down in a muddy puddle. Slutty cuddling, kissed a witch, hugged a troll, filled a pie, ate it, killed a guy, dug a hole. I'm so dirty. I gotta clean my clothes, I'm so dirty. It's time to do a load, I'm so dirty. I gotta clean my clothes, I'm so dirty. It's time to do a load.
And actually at the end, Laundry Together actually kind of is a substantive song about relationships and when you get to the point where a couple's doing laundry together. So it's actually, there is a little bit meat on that bone, and yet at the same time it's still kind of fun, lighthearted, and silly. And again, the perfect sort of alternative to Never Love. Of course, if you're a vinyl collector, like this, like I said, digitally it came out way back, but I pretty much completely ignored it because, MP3 only, whatever. Now it's out on vinyl. And so it is a new record, but old music. But hopefully this means that maybe Buck 65 is now getting ready to come back, because Never Love was his last album. That was 2014. And a lot of people sort of thought he disappeared. He released his memoir, and there's some controversy around that, because maybe he said some things that weren't true. Although then again, maybe he pitched his memoir as being a mix of fiction and fact, so maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe there's some controversy with his girlfriend. There's actually all kinds of articles you can really dig into it if you care that much. Frankly, I didn't. So it seemed like, okay, maybe he disappeared forever. But he didn't really disappear forever, because he did kind of come back and he was doing a radio show up in Canada. So, I mean, he left all of our radars, but he hasn't been hiding underground. I mean, he canceled his website. He hasn't posted on Facebook in 6 years and all, so it sort of seems like he disappeared. But he's also sort of been around. But I'm saying, hopefully now, with this new vinyl just coming out, this is sort of him, preparing the market again, getting ready to come back. He actually also did another brand new online-only thing with Controller 7. I haven't really listened to that either, because again, MP3 only, not really, if you don't care, I don't care. But if he's got that coming out, he's got this new LP coming out, which admittedly Joe Run put out of his own production, but it's still a Buck 65 album. Hopefully that means he's gearing up. He's in the labs recording his next new final return comeback album that's going to follow up Never Love. Hopefully, we'll see. Even if not, though, this album should tide you over for a long time, because it is pretty good. It is pretty fun. And yeah, sure, it's frivolous, it's lighthearted, it's, but I could see myself, going back to it more often and more frequently when I'm just in the mood to listen to something dope than I have with Never Love. I have gone back to Never Love every so often, but not that much. So in a way, in that sense, maybe Laundromat Boogie is a stronger album. Decide for yourselves. I'll play some clips, and I'll see you guys next time when I'm not playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. All right. Peace out, guys.